Tennis is one of the most misunderstood sports, and let me explain why as someone who has seen it firsthand. There's this immense luxury that's shown in the media. Top players winning over $1 million in one tournament, luxury cars, luxury hotels, luxury handbags. But then there's another side of it, with players who are outside of the top 100 barely being able to afford to get to their next tournament. And if you look at other sports like basketball or soccer, if you're in the top 100 of that sport, you're earning tens of millions of dollars, but not tennis. So let's chat about it. My name is Ellie, otherwise known as Ellie Magelli. For the past 3 months, I've actually been traveling full-time on the pro tennis tour with my boyfriend, James Watt, who actually just broke into the top 100 for doubles, which is insane and such an accomplishment. So there will definitely be more tennis content to come as we go to some more of those tournaments. Now, normally I show the behind the scenes of the tennis tour. I've shown it on my vlogs, I've shown it on my Instagram, and I've shown it on my TikTok. But I haven't actually sat down to chat and talk about tennis. So I just want to chat about why the tennis tour is so crazy, what makes it so tough, and also just some crazy stories that happen along the way. First, let's talk about why people think that tennis is so luxurious, but in reality, when you're actually playing on the tennis tour, it's not always the case. If you're someone who casually watches tennis, most likely you only hear about the top 10 players. And from that perspective, it seems like there's so much money in the sport. You're seeing these top players play in one tournament and win something like $1.5 million just from playing one tournament. But the hard thing about tennis is that it's very unbalanced. The top 10 players in the world make majority of the money, and everyone else pretty much just earns pennies in comparison. That's why it's so important to break into the top 100 in tennis, because that's when you're actually earning money where you're not in the negative anymore. You can actually survive on the tour and you're actually making some money. I also think from the WAG community, which is wives and girlfriends of professional athletes, they of course are going to be showing the luxurious side. This isn't just for tennis, but it's shown the same with soccer and basketball and F1 even. They're in like the super flashy outfits and looking super gorgeous and like posting all this content about it. And honestly, it looks amazing. It looks like a great life to have. But again, in reality, it's not always the case. So technically I would say I'm a WAG because I'm a girlfriend of a professional athlete. And that's why I think it's important for people like myself to just be documenting what the tennis tour looks like more from like the normal side, because within tennis, there's 3 different tiers of tournaments. There's the ATP tour, which is what you would see on TV, what the top 10 play in, and really what the top 100 play in. Then the next one underneath is the challenger level. So that's where a lot of the tennis players really push themselves and really try and break into the ATP level tour. So it's pretty much where you see people grinding it out, working as hard as possible to just make that jump. And at this point, they're making a little bit of money where they're not necessarily in the negatives, but they are getting really close to getting into that top 100 and playing on the ATP tour. Then third, you have the futures tour. It's really where you start at the bottom and you build your way up to get to the challengers and then to the ATP level. So for my boyfriend at the beginning of this year, he was actually ranked around like 370 for doubles. He is playing both doubles and singles, but at the moment he's just focusing more on doubles because he's doing well in doubles. And it's also another hard thing about tennis is it's very hard to play doubles and singles at the exact same time. So for right now, we're just focusing on doubles. Regardless, at the beginning of this year, he actually played in his first ATP Tour event, which was the ASB Classic in Auckland, New Zealand. And throughout this year, he's been playing in challenger level tournaments, which I've been documenting quite well since I started traveling with him, all on my Instagram. So if you want to see all that content, pop on over there. The Challenger Tour, as I said before, is where you see the grind happen. And did I see the freaking grind in the last 3 months? And the Challenger Tour is super interesting because it can be so varying from tournament to tournament. They also have multiple Challenger tournaments all in the same week. So there will be like 1 week, let's say a random week in October, and there will be like 3, sometimes 4 tournaments around the world all playing in that same week. And as a player, you have to decide which one you want to play in, which one is stronger, which one is weaker, which one you have a better chance of playing in. But also you have to think about what are the other tournaments that are happening maybe the week after, and do you have a good flight path that you can fly to get to these tournaments? So obviously with tennis being a worldwide sport, that adds a whole big complication to it. Also, the quality of the tournaments can be very different as well. When we're in the US, for example, there was one tournament that James was playing in Tiburon, California, and another tournament was in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, the tournament in Vegas was a very different vibe to the one in Tiburon. The Tiburon Challenger is actually known for being very scenic. The community is very involved, and we definitely got treated an A1 service when we were there. And in comparison with Vegas, our hotel was actually on the Vegas Strip, and we were dealing with crazy loud noises until 2 a.m. And yeah, very, very different from the Tiburon, California Challenger tournament. And it's been interesting to watch James move up in his career because the Futures tournaments versus the Challenger tournaments versus the ATP tournaments are incredibly different. I don't think I got to see any of his Futures tournaments in person. You pay for your accommodation, you pay for your food, you pay for your supplies, you pay for anything you need in order to play. And it's pretty much, like I said, bottom of the barrel. It's where you're kind of starting, getting your first ATP point so that you can move up in your career. Then when you get to challenger tournaments, that's where it becomes more interesting because your hotels are covered for. And that is a freaking game changer for tennis players, because when you think of the cost of, it's like you're going on a holiday, but you're going on a holiday to work, and every single week is a different week where you need to travel. So you could be paying like $500 on a plane ticket one week, and then the next week you have to fly even farther. You're paying $1,000 for a plane ticket, but then also taking the cost of accommodation at that point too. So if you're staying in a hotel, it could be like $100 a night. You're spending another $500 or $600 or even $700, maybe even more for a hotel for an entire week, on top of the flight that you needed to get there. And on top of that, all the extra added costs around food and supporting your well-being while you're playing the sport. But then for the ATP level, obviously I haven't been to a lot of ATP events, so I can't fully speak on all of them. But the one that we did end up going to was the ASB Classic at the beginning of this year. And that tournament is so good. The hotels that they put you in, the cars that they drive you to the courts in, everything just feels like a step above luxuriousness wise. And I'm very interested to see how this 2026 season goes, because James will be playing in the ASB Classic and there is potential for the Australian Open. And with a huge Grand Slam opportunity, I could see the side of it being very, very different. So I will comment on that when we get to that point soon, hopefully. Another thing that makes tennis one of the toughest sports is the mental and emotional whiplash that you get. So much of a tennis player's performance is determined by their emotional well-being. If you're having a great week, you feel confident, you're going to be hitting better. But the exact same thing can be said for the opposite. If you're not feeling that good, maybe you lost the week before, you're not feeling as confident on your racket, maybe you're missing some balls into the net, all of that stuff can get into your head and affect your performance insanely. So not only do you have to be really great physically, but you also have to be really great emotionally. You have to be locked in and always focusing. And the fact that tennis matches can sometimes go for like 2, 3, 4 hours even, you need to be locked in that entire time. Like you cannot lose focus. You need to be focusing on so many things, the points, the match, how the other person is performing, and you also have to focus on yourself too. Just from a sports perspective, I think it's an insane sport that requires so much focus and endurance and power and strength and literally so many things. Tennis is honestly such a hard sport. I was actually a Division I soccer player, and that's how James and I met. We met in college while we were both playing our sports. And I remember thinking that tennis was such an easy sport. It's literally harder than soccer, I would say. Like, it is an insane sport. I give credit where credit is due. Tennis is a very tough sport. Another thing that I was speaking on before was actually the travel schedules. The schedule is entirely up to you on when you want to take breaks, when you want to go for it. And all of this can add into your luck within the tournaments, but also can kind of add to your downfall if that's the case too. There was one tournament where we had just finished up for Davis Cup in New Zealand and we were deciding on where to go next. The options were that the boys could go over to the US and play in some challenger tournaments over there, which were Tiburon and Vegas, or they could take the risk and go over to China where there was an ATP 250 tournament. However, how it works with the points is that if you don't have direct entry into a tournament, you actually get put onto an alternate list. Sometimes you can get off the alternate list, but sometimes you don't. So the risk was they were still on the alternate list and they could fly all the way to China and wait and be an on-site alternate, meaning that they're there, physically there, and if someone pulls out, they directly enter into the tournament. But it's a huge risk to take because then you're flying from New Zealand to China, going all that distance, and you might not even play. Or you can have guaranteed entry into 2 challenger tournaments and play a bunch of other tournaments in the US after as well. Obviously, we were going back and forth. We were on the phone just trying to figure out which tournament they were going to go to. James was calling coaches. He was calling his advisors. He was calling agents. He was just calling everyone trying to get a good idea on if he should take the risk to go to the 250 or if he should take the safe route and go to the challengers. Now, in my head, I was like, let's go to the 250. Why not? It's a huge deal. Like, what a breakthrough. Like, that would be amazing for you to be in. But once we actually thought through everything, we thought it actually made more sense to go to the challenger route, get the points, guarantee those points, and then build up their ranking so they can start getting into Grand Slams. The crazy thing is that they actually would have gotten into that 250 tournament if they full sent it, which is like, oh, you feel like it's a missed opportunity, but in the end, it's actually a smart decision is whatever the decision that you end up making because you stick with it and you just go through with it. And it's funny because the exact same thing happened a month later where we had another opportunity where they could go to a 250 tournament. In the previous example, they were 3rd or 4th on the alternate list and they would have ended up getting in. But for the more recent tournament, they were actually 1st or 2nd on the alternate list. They again decided not to take the risk, but for this one, they wouldn't have gotten in, which is so crazy to see because sometimes you're really close to the main draw, sometimes you're a little bit farther away on the alternate list. So you never really know what's going to happen, and you really, really have to weigh up the risks. So that's why I feel like tennis is designed so only the toughest survive. If you're not mentally tough, if you're not physically tough, you're literally just not going to make it in tennis. It's not possible. And one funny thing that I actually noticed about players as well, and how they kind of try and cheat the system with all of the travel that they have to do, is that tennis players love refundable flights. They love flexi flights. Anytime that you can get a flexi flight, they're going to be booking it. So I've actually heard of some tennis players buying multiple plane tickets during the week because within tennis, if you lose, you're just flying to the next tournament. So the tournament will start on Monday and you'll play games throughout the entire week, playing one game per day. Let's say if you lose on a Wednesday, you want to fly out immediately to get to the next tournament so you can get adjusted, start practicing and learn the surface and the environment. You just want to do that as fast as possible. But at the same point, you don't want to book a flight on Wednesday thinking that you're going to lose, because what if you make it all the way to the end of the tournament on Saturday or Sunday? Then you need to book another flight for then. So some guys will actually book multiple flights. They'll buy a flight for Friday and they'll buy a flight for Sunday. And wherever they end up placing within the tournament, they'll then cancel the other flight and just take whichever one that works conveniently for them. Because I think a lot of people know this, but if you buy flights last minute, they can get expensive. So sometimes buying them the week before actually helps a lot. Another side of tennis that makes it absolutely so tough is the loneliness. So not only do you have to be mentally locked in, physically locked in, there's also these elements of the environment trying to hurt you. And that is the loneliness side of it. Some players will have significant others who they're doing long distance with. I feel like a lot of the tennis players are like that. Within the challenger tournaments, more people are traveling with a significant other. I've actually seen some people travel with their whole families, which is pretty crazy. But I think traveling with kids anywhere would be really tough. I think it's been a blessing that I'm able to travel with James, and in a way, I think maybe that's why he reached top 100, because I was there. But just talking to him too, he was speaking about how it's so important to have people around you supporting you. Yes, people are supporting you like on the phone or over social media, or, you call your mom and dad, they're going to be speaking positively about you. But actually having people physically there to even help you, where it's like, oh, I'll go get you an extra water, or, you put your feet up, like I'll go get food. Just being supportive in that kind of way can help so much, just take that pressure off of them. Luckily, I feel like I'm in a position where I can travel and I can work remotely, so it works out perfectly for me. Also, James is not paying for me to be there. I just want to make that clear. I think people think that I'm just freeloading off of him, but that's not the case. I have another video on how I quit my corporate job and how I saved up all my money in order to quit for that corporate job to be here. So go give that a watch if you want a little bit more context on my story, at least. With James and I too, we actually did 2.5 years of long distance in our relationship before I was able to travel with him. And that only ended like 3 months ago, which is crazy to think. It was a big reality for us for the longest time, where I was like, okay, either, you do this tennis thing for the next 10, 15 years, however long your career is, and I'll just wait at home until you're done. Or I can get to a position where, I could quit my job or somehow work remotely and travel with him. Dating a tennis player is also just not for the weak, because they're constantly traveling, constantly in different time zones, and it's just a big adjustment for everyone, really. It's also tough seeing with some of the other guys who are in relationships and doing long distance, especially because now I'm physically there on tour. I can see how it kind of affects other players. Let's say, imagine like you win this crazy tournament, you're like, oh my God, I just won, this is crazy. You go to your hotel room and it's just you there alone in your hotel room. Like no one's there to cheer with you. They might be there on the phone, they might be there over social media, but having someone really there in person matters so much more. So it hurts my heart a little bit when I see some of the tennis players talking about their long distance girlfriends or relationships. And in a perfect world, tennis players would be earning enough money where their whole entire families could travel with them. But again, that's not always the case. Now, one of the crazy things about tennis and why it's so misunderstood is the hidden costs. Now, when I talk to my friends, some of them are shocked that they're not getting their flights paid for. They're like, what do you mean you have to pay for your own flights? Like, that's insane. At least for the challenger level tournaments, they do get their hotels covered for, which takes a big weight off of their shoulders. But yeah, the tournaments are not paying for flights, because think about how many flights that they would have to pay for. That would be an insane amount. But it could still happen. I don't know. Tennis could evolve in the future where they are paying for flights for challengers. That would be amazing. But even at the top level, like in the ATP tour, they're all paying for their own flights. Like they're not getting covered for that unless it's for a specific event or, there's an appearance fee for it or something like that. But But some of the hidden costs that we have ran into are definitely exit row seat tickets, because my partner James and we're both over 6 foot. I'm 6'1" and he is 6'10". So the amount of times that we have had to upgrade to exit row, that definitely adds up a lot over time. Also, overweight baggage too. It's kind of funny because some of the guys will win a tournament and they'll get like this big, huge trophy and you're like, oh my God, this is so awesome. But then you realize that the trophy weighs 5 kilos and your bag is already at the max amount to travel with, that you don't have to pay for extra baggage. So you're like, what do I do with this trophy? Some of the guys will literally leave the trophy in the hotel room. They're like, I don't care about it. It's whatever. Like, I've got the memory of me winning. I don't need this trophy. Like, that's crazy to me. I can't believe that. But at the same time too, sometimes they'll ship them back home. But shipping costs can also be expensive. When we're in Tiburon, the boys actually won that Challenger tournament, which was awesome. And the people of the tournament, like I said, they're super hospitable, super nice. They paid for the shipping of the trophy to go back to New Zealand, where the guys are from. So that was super nice of them, but that's not really an expectation on the tournament. When they won a 125K tournament in Jinan, China, that trophy was huge, weighed so much. We took it all the way through the airport and everything. And James just got to a point where he's like, I can't carry this around. Because when they're traveling, it's not like they win the tournament and they go home. They win the tournament and then they keep playing other tournaments. If you win multiple tournaments, you're taking this trophy around to literally every other tournament after. And they're running out of weight in their baggage. Like, it's not possible. So that's another hidden cost too, is actually paying for extra baggage, or if you have to ship anything home, those add up. And the amount of times that I have been at the damn airport and it's like 34 kilos and I'm only allowed 30 kilos. And I'm like, oh, what do I do? What do I take out? What can I sacrifice? You just don't have room for it. You're literally traveling with your whole life just in one suitcase. So what are you going to do? I'm sad to admit the amount of times that I had to Uber because I missed a shuttle bus and I needed to be at the tournament at a certain time. Even just getting from the airport to the hotel, sometimes they organize transport, but a lot of the time they don't. So you just kind of have to figure out a way. Is there a train? Is there a bus? Do I take an Uber? You kind of just need to like figure it out in every country that you're in. There was one time when we were in Matsuyama, Japan, and they had changed the bus times for the weekend, and we didn't actually know about it. So on Saturday, we pull up and we're ready to go to the tournament, and we get out there and we're like, why is the bus not coming? Because especially in Japan, they are so accurate about their times. Like, the bus is there exactly on time. It leaves exactly on time. They're so specific about it. So we're like, there's definitely an issue. Luckily, the tennis director was there, so he was able to call and be like, hey guys, is there another shuttle that can pick us up? So luckily he saved the day and was able to get someone to bring in another bus so that we could get over to the tournament. Another big cost would definitely be buying food out all the time. Since we're in hotel rooms, you actually don't have access to a kitchen or sometimes even a microwave to cook your food. So you pretty much have to eat everything out. Sometimes the tournaments will cover lunch, which can sometimes cover to dinner, but really you're getting hotel breakfast. You might get your lunch covered, but then you're always eating dinner out, or you're eating lunch and dinner out. If there's any snacks that you want, you're also buying those too. With tennis though, I feel like since it's raising in popularity, I think it can bring more money to the sport. And I think that's something that I really want to kind of do with, my own platform and just with Instagram and like showing the behind the scenes. I would really love to see tennis get to a point where more people appreciate it. There's more money in it for like the challenger level and even the futures level, where we can just build tennis up to be like so much of a bigger thing. I know it's already absolutely huge as it is, but maybe in a way where it just distributes the wealth a little bit more evenly, and that, we can see more characters come up in tennis and more people highlighted, and maybe undeserved communities that we can see be more supported in tennis too. Also, if you're from New Zealand and you're watching this video, I actually really wanted to do something for the ASB Classic where like we all get together and we do like a walk and everyone can like meet some of the New Zealand tennis players. If you're interested in that, leave a comment down below. Also, if you're at the point in the video now and you want to see more content like this would be a great time to subscribe, and definitely turn on that bell notification too, because a lot of people have been telling me that they're not actually getting notified of my videos. So that'd be great if you could turn it on and you want to see more of it. I also post daily on my Instagram, so check on over there. It's got some fun content on it too. My boyfriend James is featured a lot on there as well. I also have so many more stories about the tennis tour that I definitely want to dive more into on some future episodes. But in summary, what I've learned is that tennis is an incredibly, incredibly tough sport. It's brutal, it's expensive, it's tough on your mental health, it's tough on your physical health. And every top 10 superstar that you see grinded from the bottom to get there. But it's also a sport that I think creates such beauty in the way that you can see how hard people work. You see these players that are grinding every single day. They're doing everything that they can to see their dream come true. And I feel so lucky that I'm in a position to witness it myself, but also share it with you guys. All right, thank you guys so much for listening. I'm also in Australia and it's getting to summer, so I'm actually overheating like crazy filming this video. But thank you guys so much for watching. Much love, and I will see you in the next one.